I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Welcome to the Fidelis Leadership Podcast, a place of learning for those who aspire to leadership excellence. Here's our host, Mike Etor.
Our guest today is Dr. Theresa Larson, and in full disclosure, I know Dr. T. We are friends. We've never met in person, but we've talked a lot virtually and all of that. We do share some common background as a Marine. So just real quick, very unique individual. Dr. Theresa she was a Division I scholarship athlete, softball player, then went in the Marine Corps as a commissioned officer, and served in a combat environment. Left the Marine Corps, I believe that's Theresa, when you went to Italy to become a professional athlete, right?
Uh-huh.
You played professional softball?
Yes.
Yeah.
Professional softball.
Then if I got this right, then you had the awakening and you went and became a doctor of physical therapy.
Yes.
And blossomed from a physical therapist into now someone that is preaching the gospel, which I love, on leadership and leadership wellness.
Yes.
Married to a former Division I athlete, right? Quarterback at Cornell, parent.
Yes. Nice, Mike.
Mother of two young Vikings, very impressive,
Yes.
So anyway, I love it. With that, welcome to the podcast again. I think this is your third time on the podcast.
It is.
And so I love having you here. I believe in your message. I try to live it. We talked about this a little bit before we hit record. So what else do we need to know about Dr. Theresa Larson?
Well, Mike, thank you for having me on. I mean, all the things you shared, all of those, those come with ups and downs, all of those accomplishments. And those are things that I like to be pretty transparent about. And yes, I think you got it right. I got two little Vikings. My husband and I, he played football at Cornell, played softball at Villanova. We met in Long Beach, California, and then ended up living in San Diego together and ran a practice in San Diego, a physical therapy practice. Sold that post-pandemic and decided to move to a mountain town called Durango, Colorado. Yeah. So we love to snowboard, we love to hike, we love to fish. We live in a log cabin in the mountains. Like, it's living the dream. But I'll tell you what, that dream comes with hardship too, growing a business, raising a family, and all the things that go into life. So
yes, absolutely. Well, just to level set everybody up front, name of your business.
Yeah.
What does your business do, and who do you help?
All right. So my business is Movement RX. I'm the founder and president of Movement RX. It is a leader human performance company. It started as a physical therapy company, but we ended up selling that part of the practice, that part of the business, and focusing just on leader development. So we support executive leaders. We support middle managers who also can be considered leaders. We love to support veteran leaders in organizations and or up and coming leaders. So how we find out, so leaders, right? Like when we go to a company, big, medium, or small, we always ask, who is the group of leaders in your organization you worry about? And usually it's the middle management, it's the executives, it could be the veteran leaders based on retention. We focus our efforts and development with those leaders. We're also, we're global. So we work with big companies like Cisco. We've worked with Marriott. We also work with small local companies like Bank of America. And one of the special ways that we've been able to grow this business is by speaking, being out there, talking to leaders, planting seeds. Because to be honest, not a lot of leaders are saying, oh, I need leader human performance training. Oftentimes people pay attention to their health when they're sick. I know we're going to get into this, but what I do is I get on stage and I share about what we do, why we do it, and why it's so important to the leader.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I love that. And before we get into the questions I'm going to ask you, I want to make a statement here, if I may, to the audience. The audience, you guys know me and you know my background and all that. I'm almost 70 years old. I'll be 70 in July. And I've got over 50 years experience now in leadership roles or leadership development roles. So I kind of, and both in the Marine Corps and corporate America, and then as an executive coach, I've been in many companies. And I want to preamble what Theresa is about to go into is the importance of leadership wellness. And I am witness to many a fine person that was a great person, really a great leader, at the height of their game, making big money, only to have their body fail on them. And it prematurely ended their career, or it affected their output, their attention span, their what am I looking for? Their resilience, their ability to work a full day. Because those of you that are out there, I think many of you aspire to get to that top level, C-level suite, make a lot of money. They don't pay you that much money for nothing. It is high stress results, and it's good money and all that, but there comes a price. And I tell you, if your body is not capable of withstanding that, you are going to limit your lifespan in the C-suite. So as you can see, Dr. T, I am an evangelist for this stuff, but I've seen it. I have seen guys get medically retired well before their prime was over because they couldn't physically do it. They had heart problems, they were stressed out, heart attack or whatever. So I know you've seen it. Anything you want to say to that before we get into the questions?
Yeah, well, I that's why I really appreciate connecting with you, because you do live it and you have so much experience in leadership. Back to serving in Vietnam, to the corporate environment, like you get it. And you're right. I mean, even in my standpoint, not working in corporate America, but running my own business, not so much the Marine Corps, but like now working as a third party in corporate America as a vendor, it's like people have a really hard time taking care of themselves. And there's a reason for that. But there's also, like, I like to say, I uncover these blind spots for people and share with them, like, look, like this may not be an issue right now. Well, actually, I don't think people realize how good they can feel no matter what age they are. Like you could feel so much better, but people don't pay attention to their health till they lose it. And what I do see is that people kind of become more and more sedentary as they age, the higher up they go. And then when they retire, they think it's going to all go away, like that stress, and they'll feel better and they'll have more energy, when actually it's the contrary. Like their stress stays there because they've never really dealt with it. And then that stress is now caught up, and now they're having issues with, maybe there's a stroke, right? Maybe there's cancer now, there's sleep issues. Like I hear it over and over again with people who are in their succession phase, like retirement, getting into retirement. They thought they'd be traveling more, doing all the things. And yet now they're dealing with all their health issues. But then you also see it in the workspace too. And it's a little heartbreaking in a lot of ways, because I get to work with service members who are in corporate America, and I get to work with, all kinds of people, and they don't, like law enforcement is a great example. They go into law enforcement. People go into law enforcement gung-ho to serve their community. But then the reality of the job is pretty sedentary, right? And then they lose their way. And then some of them in terms of health and fitness. And then there's programs like the National Academy for the FBI, right? Where they bring in law enforcement leaders. What do they do at the National Academy? They get them physically active. Guys who have had back pain for years all of a sudden don't have back pain because they're working out consistently. That's it. They're doing strength training, working out, doing recovery. And then they have to go back to their lives, though, their normal lives. And then what? Because now they don't have that structure. So part of this, right, for what we do is we're helping corporate America, leaders in corporate America, develop a structure to thrive. Not later on, but right now.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I do want to make one correction, Dr. T. I did not serve in Vietnam. So I joined the
Okay.
Marine Corps in 74. Vietnam was over. When I joined, there were World War II, Korea, and Vietnam vets in the ranks. It was great. I just
Yeah.
idolized those guys. Now, I did manage to maybe confuse you a little bit. I did manage to attend some of the small wars between Vietnam and 9/11. I retired before 9/11. So the little
Well,
brush
thank you for
fire,
that.
you know,
Okay.
yeah. Because there's always somebody out there when you put
Yeah.
yourself out there,
Yeah,
like,
of
oh,
course.
poser, he's a
You're
sullen
right.
Valerie.
Yeah. No, I thank you for the correction. I apologize for that. But
Oh no, I
yeah.
realized it was innocent, but I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to have somebody out there say he's a stolen valor guy. I knew it,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I gotcha. No, don't want to do that.
so anyway, I am a client of your business, and I remember when you were not in the leadership space, it was like, I would buy certain hours a year, and then you would hook me up with a physical therapist, and we would do video chats, and she would
Yeah.
have me do exercises and all of that. And I think you still do that, but I also think you transitioned into the leadership space, leadership development specifically. When did that happen, and why did it happen?
Yeah, so we really don't do the telehealth anymore. That was, we were transitioning that during the pandemic. I think that's when we worked with you, and that's when I first initially met with you, like right at the start. Because I was also,
Yes.
I think, pregnant with my second son. Remember
Okay.
that? And so it was a bit of time coming. So probably 2017, 2018, we were like, we want to do, we don't want to have to be in any place. That was a goal of ours. Like, we don't want to have to be stuck in San Diego because of a clinic, right? Or we didn't want our work to define where we lived. But we did run a clinic in San Diego. So pandemic kind of shifted things for us because we now got to do telehealth and got to work with people all over the country. But still, that wasn't our dream. And because of the location of our clinic and our backgrounds, we ended up working with a lot of military leaders, Navy SEALs, some folks who worked surrounding companies in San Diego. And we have these questions by a few of them, like, do you guys do corporate wellness? Like, we'd love to have your team and to do corporate wellness. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, sure. Like, we can do it. So that kind of helped us start to transition to this model of like serving companies. So this is actually a great story. I think it's a great story because it kind of really shares why we do what we do. So we started to do some corporate wellness in San Diego for the Navy, actually, for the SWRMEC region, for the SWRMEC division. And then we also did it for a couple education companies and brought in instructors and all this. Not super scalable at the time, but it was our instructors loved it. We loved it. I loved being in the boardrooms, like kind of strategizing it. But at the end of the day, after 3 or 4 iterations of our program, it fell off. And when I sat back to look at, even from day one, I was like, well, where's your senior managers? Where's the chief of HR? Like, where are the leaders in this? Only the employees outside of leadership roles were there. They're like, oh, they're too busy. They wanted to do it, but they're too busy. And I was like, thinking about it, like, that's why it doesn't work. That's why it didn't work. It's because the leaders wanted it, but weren't involved in it. And it's really important for their people to see them involved. Right? So people loved it, but at the end of the day, who was buying the programs? The leaders who weren't actually engaging with it. Yes, we proved that work fulfillment increased, overall strength increased, these certain metrics that we were tracking. But the problem was that the leaders were just being their sedentary selves, right? Making the decisions, but not engaging, which affects the company culture. So if they don't actually get to witness and see and experience it, it's going to be hard to have continued buy-ins for the price of it. So we ended up selling our PT practice And then like started to really think about like where, the pandemic gave us a little bit of time to think through this. How are we going to make this work? Like corporate wellness isn't the answer, but what space really I admire and that I'd love to be in is the leadership space. Partially because of the background and what I've chosen to do, what we've chosen to do, but the people I know and the people who I resonate with, like you and these other leaders who I loved connecting with. I was just, it was disheartening that they didn't show up for their own trainings, but I related to them. And so then we decided to launch into this leadership space because I felt like these were people like me struggling to figure it out. And you know what? These are the people that need this stuff the most. So that's who I'm going to focus on because there's so much noise. The other part of this, there's so much noise in the EAP, corporate wellness, fitness space, even physical therapy. Like, yeah, there's a traditional physical therapist on every block in a big city. That's not me. You look online, there's fitness influencers, whatever, there's people that are saying they know everything about fitness. There's a lot of noise on these social media platforms. In corporate wellness, there's a lot of noise. And I didn't want to fit into that noise. My job was to stand out from that noise. And when I looked around, I was like, the people who are being left out are the leaders. Like I didn't do a good enough job, and I didn't know at the time, of educating the leaders on why they need to be present and why they need this. So then I started to shift also the way I thought about well-being and wellness was like wellness, schmellness. That's the overused word. I love well-being, but when someone thinks about well-being, they're like, yeah, I'll get to that. But when you start to talk about performance, competitive advantage, energy levels, cognitive and physical performance, then they start to perk up. And I started to think of ways, how can I create a command presence in this space? It's not going to be doing what everyone else is doing on social media. It's going to be stages, getting up in front of people, keynoting, talking at meetings, meeting one-on-one, right? Educating them on the why and the how. And so Movement RX, our mission is to help people redefine their purpose, know how to continuously grow, which is behavior change part, right? Have a path of continuous growth and live physically and emotionally free. We want to give every individual that works with us that ability. So there you have it.
Yeah. Well, very interesting. Before we move on, just to make the audience crystal clear, you mentioned the terms leader, human performance, or well-being. What is your operating definition of these? Just so people can say, okay, she's getting ready to get into detail, but this is what she's talking about right here.
Yeah. So I use leader, human performance, and well-being interchangeably, but they are, if you look at this definition, well-being is a state of mind around how you feel about how you're doing. I use them interchangeably because from a high level, if you look at it from a 30,000 foot level, because human performance, it really is tapping into someone's well-being, like the way they are. But the human performance on a micro level, 1,000 foot level, it's like, how are you cognitively and physically doing? How much are you sleeping? How much are you eating? How much are you moving? There's an objectivity to it. That's well-being too. That feeds into well-being. But what I want people to know is that it's a different way of looking at, like, human performance is a more proactive, exciting, performance-driven way of looking at well-being, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes
and well-being,
sense.
you can measure it too. Same things, how you're sleeping, how you're eating, how you're moving. But there's a different mentality around saying well-being versus my performance, my human performance.
Right.
But they're kind of doing the same thing. Like I look at it like if you look at injury prevention versus performance. Well, the things that you do for injury prevention is the same as performance. I'm working on my hip mobility. I'm working on my pull-up strength. I'm working on getting better sleep. Yeah, all of that helps prevent injury and improve performance. But people like to focus on improving performance, especially leaders.
Yeah, I love it. Well, it's now that we know what you're doing and why you're doing it, is there a particular niche in corporate America that you guys are working with?
Yeah, so over the years, we've gravitated towards tech companies, so big tech. And honestly, so right now we run a really awesome veteran leader program within Cisco Systems. It's a yearly program. It runs about 3 to 5 months, depending on the year. But we have smaller organizations we work with too. So tech, yes, we work with tech. We work with some banks. We work with a hotel chain, general contracting, or general contracting. So the affinity groups we have are tech, general contracting, and law enforcement right now. These other orgs like banks, hotel, those are different. But the thing is, we're focused on the leader that they're worried the most about, right?
Yeah.
And in these bigger companies, it is the veteran leader and our middle management. With some of the smaller companies, it's like the executives. So I guess that's not really a very clear answer.
No, it's good.
We do. I'll just say this. I love working with law enforcement, first of all, partially because we're kind of cut from the same cloth, military, it's paramilitary, right? And I just love serving them. It fills my cup. So I got to work with the FBI and their command college and eventually National Academy. That's a work in progress, but I love serving them. But that's not really the bread and butter, right? It's just one of the most fulfilling parts of what we do. Corporate America, I love serving the veteran, but I'll just say this: not all orgs are like, well, I know we want to serve the veteran, but can you work with this level of leader? Again, any level of leader they worry about.
Yeah.
But we do target based on success, the tech industry, general contracting, and law enforcement.
I love it. I love it. Well, I got to believe that a lot of what you do, depends on the executives or the senior leaders in that organization. I have a saying that I put out years ago that, as goes the leader, so goes the team always. So, I think your dream client would be, executives that were all fit, working out, what an example for the rest of the team. So my main question on this is, how do you get buy-in for this, Theresa? Because I've been out there in corporate America too. And for example, the executive team I served on in K-Force, every executive clearly was an exerciser. Some casual, some deep into it, but there were no obese executives there. And we ran a fast paced, in that business and all of that. But I've also seen some people that not necessarily obese, they're just not in good physical condition. They're not eating right. They're not sleeping right. They're drinking or whatever. And I've seen it limit their workday or their careers. I've seen it limit it. So if you're giving a talk and there's executives from a company and they might even have been forced to go there by their boss or going to go, how do you get people to buy in on this?
Well, I always share a relatable story to start. People buy why you do things, typically, the why behind it. And people relate to storytelling way more than just giving them facts. So yes, I'm a scientist and I give facts, but I've become a better storyteller, and that creates some relatability to the leader, right? That command presence. But what's important is, bottom line up front is like, what group do you worry about and why? Right? Let's say it's veterans because of retention. We're losing, 40% of veterans leave their job in the first year, 80% by their second year. So, okay, well, that's a problem. right? The turnover rates, there's a lot of money that goes into training someone. So yeah, your bottom line matters at the end of the day. So, and that's corporate America. Their bottom line, we could do all this other great stuff, but they ultimately want to grow their business. So that's what we get to is what group is affecting your business or that you're worried about. In one group, it's veterans. In another group, it's the middle management because, right, they don't handle their stress well. They've got kids at home. They've got old aging parents. They're in new people leader roles. And I've heard from executives like this group, even talking to middle managers, it's like, yes, life is hard. It sucks. And we're okay with hard, right? I teach about that. Like, be okay with hard, but be smart about the hards you choose. And so that's the key is that I'm not bringing in wellness for the sake of wellness. I'm like, yeah, I believe in it. I want you to sleep better. I want you to eat better. But what matters first is that I'm solving a problem for them. And that problem affects their bottom line. We're not
There's no doubt about that. Yeah, I love that.
And that's the key. And so initially, right, I set up a story. I share a real story about my struggle as a leader to be healthy. And when I start to be vulnerable about that, not just as a young Marine, but as running my own business, it's like other leaders relate to the challenge of it. And so then they listen. And then it's like, look, I know that this talk that I'm giving is going to help you, especially if you lean into what I ask. And, I can't expect a talk to be the thing that changes someone's life, but it definitely plants the seeds. But I also talk about how, the number one reason why people stay or leave a company is their relationship with their direct supervisor. It's not pay, it's something else. So the ability for people to relate, communicate, that all comes from having emotional intelligence, physical intelligence. We coined this term called integrated intelligence because you know as much as I do that physical, the way you carry yourself impacts your emotions, impacts how you relate to others, right? If I'm physically depleted, and one of my colleagues who's an exec calls it the wellness wall. I can't even think about being healthy because I got so much other stuff on my mind and I'm so drained. You kind of just put on these blinders, right?
Yeah.
I remember in Marine Corps training where we, were out at Bridgeport, I think it was, and it's like they talk about this cocooning effect because it's so cold and that it's easy to get like just set in your, you do what you do to survive. But I was a platoon commander. Like I have other people to take care of. Yeah. And I witnessed the draw for cocooning. Like, this is so uncomfortable. But that's what happens with leaders who are unhealthy is like they cocoon and they just focus on putting on their blinders and doing what they do. And they forget about everyone around them or they don't pay attention. Right. And that's when problems happen. So I just lay it out like it's real. Like, and wellness, I talk about the human performance pieces just a little bit, but it's more about what do they want in life and what do they need in their company? What's the problem that we can solve? But then I also share with them because some of them don't know how to solve those problems. And I'm like, well, if people stay because of the relationship with others and feeling cared for, then how are you caring for them? Like giving them a pizza party, or giving them even a one day. We've learned like these one-off trainings, they don't work that well because they don't create long-term accountability. If you really want to engage people, give them a chance to experience something that will be a pattern interrupt in their day that they can take back to their teams. I mean, we've seen it, we've witnessed it. We no longer do one-off leadership trainings. It's all cohort group based now because if you're going to invest in your people, invest in them and let's make an impact, the kind of impact you want. And let's track that data. Like you want to get people promoted, you want people to retain people, then let's track that. And the way we work with orgs is we are partners with them. It is not the Movement RX show. It is not the Dr. T show, right? We have great speakers and leaders in our company that come and present. But at the end of the day, what also makes things work is that we partner with the org. So you are an executive at a company, Mike, I want to make sure that I'm doing a fireside chat with you, picking your brain in front of the group to learn more about you, understand your purpose so people can connect with you more, right? Because in bigger orgs, people feel disconnected. People stay in their offices, do their thing, but then everyone else is wondering, well, how do I get there? I don't really understand. How do I get there? Like, I want to know this person, but they don't have the time for me. So we bring in this human element to leadership. And it's, we've gotten it wrong a lot. I'll say that, but we're getting it right. And that is, so we're having a lot more success because of that too, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, I've got another question for you. But before, I want to make a statement, again, because my audience is used to hearing me say certain things a certain way. I think you're dead on. What you propose to companies about this is why, healthy leaders are good for your bottom line. I do the same thing when, Mike, why should we hire you for leadership development or coaching and all that? I said, well, forget about the individual for now. Do you want to be able to have leaders that can translate strategy to tactical execution? Do you want retention? Do you blah, 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 all these things that, start, now it starts registering. Yes, well, the best way you can do that is a great leadership team. So as you know, as Marines, we do a lot of professional reading. And I know when I was a young lieutenant, they made us in IOC, Infantry Officers Course, they made us read Erwin Rommel's book called Attacks. It was a famous general, World War I hero, famous World War II general. And he had a saying that said, the best way to look out for the welfare of your troops is first-rate training. And it's true in that context. It's true everywhere. But I would say leaders, executives, people in charge of companies, the best way you can look out for your people, have a viable, profitable company, is to provide first-rate leadership team. If you focus on the leadership team, I have seen mediocre companies with terrible leaders. I've never seen a great company with a weak leadership team.
Yes.
I've seen companies, Dr. T, with average talent that are kicking ass because of who's leading them. For some reason, that leadership team, you've seen it everywhere you go, sports, Marines, everywhere you go. What if the old, sheep led by a lion or lions led by a sheep, that kind of stuff like that. So with that, my profound statement, so to speak, let's say you're in the company now. They're buy off. All right, Theresa, come on in. You bring your people in. What have you found to be most effective? What do leaders in these companies respond to relative to you wanting to move the needle on leadership development?
Yeah, so once we get the clear to go, there's a whole set of things we need to do with the company, again, partnering with them. Because the way we run trainings, there's in-person involvement at the beginning and end, there's virtual involvement, there's challenges and check-ins and things like that that keep people going. And so we always run, I'll just say that we're big on data too, is what we find out what the company, and we've already found this out, but then how do we objectify it? Like retention, we can't track really. That's the HR team, but they can let us know the numbers, right? And promotion, stuff like that. But we send out a human performance assessment that tests their movement, strength. We look at sleep, we look at fuel, we look at perceived resilience, perceived stress, work fulfillment, those things. We also look at energy and time, there's a questionnaire that was put out by Harvard Business Review years ago that we use. So we've been able to pull these outcomes together into a human performance assessment and send that to each individual going through the program. And by this time, we've already targeted the group within the program, right? It's with the bank we're working with, it's all their executives. With Cisco, it's their veteran leaders. And we're looking for other orgs who want to engage their veteran leaders too, right? So that's an objective of ours, is like, how can we support other companies and even partners of Cisco, right? Because we have a great respect for their culture, with other veteran orgs, other orgs that want to support their veterans. With another company, it's their middle management leaders who've been in the company for 15 years. So by the time we get to work with them, we know the problem we're going to solve. So we just make sure that's part of our initial assessment, right? We ask the attendee what they're looking to get out of the program. We ask them about themselves too. Not all the marital status or anything like that, but just like, what do they like to do in their spare time, and what's about their military experience if they are veterans. And so I think what makes us stand out as well is we know the people before we go in. So by the time we meet them, we can say their name, right? And these cohorts we run aren't big. They're like 15 to 20 people per. I mean, when I work with the FBI Academy, it's like 300 people in a room. So it's different. There's less high touch. But with these ones that are really involved, right, there's 15 or 20 people, and they've invested their time, they've applied to be there. But we also, with our leadership, when we speak to groups, we have the leadership also speak from the company. They come in and teach different modules because, for example, with veteran leaders, especially new veteran leaders to the company that they want to retain, they need to understand the culture of the company. So they will bring directors and execs in to speak about the culture of the company who also happen to be veterans, right? So that takes a lot of upfront work. I would say most of the work is upfront. Connecting with leaders, getting buy-in, bringing them in. But there is this whole in-person engagement that happens at the beginning and end. At the end, like, we have the groups solve an actual problem that the company is dealing with. We call it it's a final project, if you will, and it's something that's pretty powerful. And then they get to share a little bit about their purpose too, but they have to also solve a problem that the company is dealing with. And so, right, there's a commitment by the company, but it's, but that's the whole point, is that they give these people a chance to learn, and then they take what they learn back to their teams. And the human performance piece comes into it every day, but we really set the foundation of that day one, right? They get an idea of that with the pre-assessment, but it's called the Be Well to Lead Well section. That we set that precedence day one of why these components of human performance affect you as a leader. And then we actually dive into components of those human performance tactics in the training. So we have them moving. They're not just sitting there all day. We have them practicing NSDR and meditation and all the things we're teaching about.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I'm curious, you said you guys have made mistakes, and, as any endeavor will do. Do you have any specific or particular challenges that you face or are facing with your business and, relating to these leaders? Anything stick out? Like, well, here's what we run into all the time.
Yeah. So I think what we've run into before, and every feedback, we don't take every feedback and run with it, right? We appreciate constructive criticism, but one of the things I learned early on from my father, also a veteran, is like, consider the source of your feedback.
Oh yeah.
So in navigating one company, right, where I did like a one-off training, I've done a keynote at their annual meeting. But I'd been working with them pre-group based training, cohort training. So we didn't really have that model established yet. And I remember this company, the people that had worked with me, they're like, we love what you do. We love your team. We love what you do, but it's not sticky. Like, people are just doing what they're doing. Like, they love your training, but they're on to the next thing. I'm like, yeah, all right, I get that. Okay. So, and when I thought about it, I'm like, can't expect a keynote or a one-off training to actually make a dent. Like even the one-off training we did with the in two different regions of this company, I had them do a 21 day challenge afterwards. It was an on-demand challenge, right? There's plenty of digital content out there, but we have some great content as you've experienced, Mike, on our platform. But again, it was like, okay, we did this one-off training, and then we said, okay, everyone, do this 21 day challenge on your own. Like 15% of the people did it. Right. So then it actually was great feedback. So I'm like, yeah, this doesn't work. And I don't want to provide things that don't work. And when I looked back at our trajectory, we got options we did a bunch of one-off trainings. And we were asked back to do more from some of the companies, but not all. And when I looked at it, and even the sales process, like if you look at it from a business standpoint, I love this book called 10X is easier than 2X. Our whole intent is to grow too as a company. Well, the sales process to get buy-in and serve these group-based trainings versus one-offs is the same. It's the same time frame, the same amount of follow-ups. It's just better ROI for one of them. Much better ROI for the company as well as for us. So it's like that feedback, well, it was hard, really sealed the deal for like, all right, we want impact. We know it creates impact. We tested this model. So going back to challenges, not to confuse people. So we always try to have this like integration or challenges that we run after a training, whether it's an 8-week long training, a 12-week long. We want people to engage in these challenges, but no longer are they 21 days. They're 5 days or 6 days, and they're group based. And we put people in what we call fire teams. You remember fire teams?
Yeah,
and
of course.
And they and then they have to do the challenge together during the workday. And so that's what we've also found is like, you can't give people this on-demand challenge and expect them to do it on their own. Like, sadly, that's just not the reality. People need people. And if we want to, I know that when my neighbor comes over to work out with me in the morning, I work out a lot alone. I work out a little harder with him. Like, he's my friend, and, he's a local Flight for Life nurse here versus on my own. Or if I have friends that come over and work out with me, people need people, and there's accountability there. I'll work out on my own because that's what I do. It's efficient for me. I'm consistent, and that's what matters most is that I am consistent. But when people are around and connecting with others, it's so much better and able to do it during their workday. When people go home, they want to be home. They don't want to engage in work again. And so there's, thankfully, and this might be just the fact that as a Marine and who I am, like, I pivot quickly. I'm like, all right, no more one-offs. We're doing group-based training. That's what we're doing. Yeah. And that has been very fruitful, both for the orgs as well as for me and our company. And even just, I remember, because there was orgs we, shared that we have these leadership development trainings. Like, you can purchase one, or you could purchase the whole series. And I've gone back to those people and said, look, I was wrong. I don't think this is going to be as effective for you, but here's a way that is. This is what we found. I'm pretty transparent with companies. I'm like, this is what works. This is the data we can prove that we can show you it works. This is what doesn't. There's a lot of companies out there still doing what doesn't work. They get paid maybe because they're retired generals, right? I'll just say this too, just because you're a retired general, doesn't necessarily, yes, you got leadership experience, extensive leadership experience, but can you relate to the person in corporate America? That is one of the biggest pitfalls too that I see is non-relatability. Nobody needs, Marine Corps 101 necessarily training. They need Marine Corps 101 plus the human aspect to it and how it relates to them in corporate America. But
Yeah.
not just Marine Corps 101 training. Just because you were a Navy SEAL doesn't mean that, and you get up at 4 a.m. to bust your ass every day for 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's not relatable to the middle management woman who's got kids at home and who's just trying to like have the energy during the day. Like, give her something that she can use. That's what I find is also wrong with a lot of the trainings I see out there. And granted, I will be the first to admit that I have provided a structure that didn't work, wasn't effective. And I will probably, if we do this again in a year, Mike, I will have learned so much more from what I've, learned from providing trainings. But group-based stuff where there's a beginning and end, and the company gives the person a chance to learn, challenges that engage teams, get people together, especially if there's a lot of remote workers, and being less on digital, like do things together, right, as a team during the workday versus like law enforcement. There's a lot of units out there that are old school that won't allow their guys to work out and ladies to work out while at work, which is totally idiotic to me. I'm like, okay, give your guys a chance to work out at work, because when they go home, they want to be home with their families.
Yeah.
So you're going to have better officers if you give them the chance. That's part of my soapbox when I get with them, when I get with those leaders. I'm like, let your people work out with you. You want to be healthier? I know you do. You're sitting here telling me you do. So do something about it by creating that structure at work.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I want to go a little bit tactical here. People are sitting there and saying, God, I love her. I love what she's saying. My company will never buy off on it. I know this for a fact. They're not going to bring her in. What's your advice for the busy leader, maybe not even an executive, working out? I say it's not that hard. You say it's not that hard. What are some things leaders can do during the day that can help their physical health? Let me give you an example where I'm going at this. I'm probably not doing a good job of this. I knew an executive who wasn't impressive to look at, but he was fit. He had a pull-up bar in his office. Mm-hmm. And he'd go out and every time he came back for a meeting, he would hop up on the bar and do 3 or 4 or 5 pull-ups. And at the end of the day, he might have done 50 pull-ups,
Yeah.
And then I knew another guy that would do push-ups and air squats, body weight squats between meetings, come in, get a cup of coffee, do 25 body weight squats. So my point is, the guy said, I don't belong to a gym, or I often can't get there, but I'm going to move my body and I feel better. 30-second, 1-minute exercise, boom, I feel better for the next meeting. Any advice on how people can do some of these tactically? They don't have a corporate gym. Their people aren't going to bring you in. What do you say to them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'll add one story to this based on your colleagues. Like, my dad was a Catholic priest, Army vet turned commodity broker turned Catholic priest. He has passed, but he would do, this is funny, in between provided reconciliation, he would do push-ups. He called them knuckle push-ups. He would do knuckle push-ups on the altar sometimes. And I loved it. He also, for people's penance, would give them, he would make them do the Hail Marys, whatever, they give Hail Mary, Our Father, and then be like, I want you to go run 2 miles, walk 5 miles. Like, he would give them an activity to do. So anyway, sadly, he's no longer with us, but so right there, you just shared some examples. You got to fit it into your day. And here's a way of thinking, because I have spoken and delivered proposals to companies where the leadership is just not, it's so wacko, like discombobulated. They're not bought in, right? They don't have the attention, or the foresight, right? They're kind of in that stress mode. So what I share with
Yeah.
people is, okay, small is all. Small hinges swing big doors. But there are no small feats, right? Like, so small hinges swing big doors. Think about it. Like if you, every day you wake up a little earlier, to meditate, pray, write in a journal, right? The Stoics are really big into journaling, like reflecting,
Yeah.
gratitude. Um, Wake up 15 minutes earlier a day, simple shift, and write for 5, 10 minutes, right? It might not make a difference day one. You'll see the compound interest of that if you're consistent with it. So I like to give people actually numbers to this too. 1% of your time a day is literally 14 minutes. So think about that. Like, what could you do to make a small shift for 14 minutes a day? So one of the things my husband and I wanted to do was just connect more when our kids are in bed or before they wake up. So he gets up 15 minutes early to spend some time with me, and we'll have some coffee together by the fire, right? And that feeds our relationship. So that was a goal of mine. For others, so it works. Think of like the 14 minutes. You probably have a lunch break. You probably can take different breaks during your day. Those breaks, you can get out and get some fresh air, walk, do some squats between meetings.
Yeah.
There's a article I just read, and there's a book called The Corporate Athlete, right? Like it is really important for your mind and your body to take breaks every 90 to 120 minutes anyway. So and ideally, actually, every 30 minutes, you should be moving positions. So, where can you get movement into the every 30 minutes? Just stand up, move around. If you're standing, go outside, right? But set a timer every 90 to 120 minutes, you're taking breaks, or even every 30 minutes, right? When I'm writing something or I'm deep in thought, doing deep work, 90 minutes is better. If I'm in meetings, right? Meetings are typically 30 minutes. So between meetings, if you could get a few steps in, get some water, right? Give yourself a little bit of a break between meetings, great. But what can you do to fit in a small shift in your day, in your work day, right? So I work out before work in the morning when it's cold, still dark. It's just my time. It's not lovely at all. But during my work day, I make sure that my breaks, 30, 90, 120 minutes, depending on what's going on that day, I'm moving around, taking the stairs in my house, walking around, standing, making food. Those are simple things. And usually I accrue 8,000 steps by just getting movement in between meetings. So think of small shifts. One guy I worked with had a goal of reading more. He wanted to read more, and he would carry a book everywhere but not read. So one of the things that I asked him to do was just lay the book on his desk in the morning on the page he wants to read. So when he comes into work, come in a little bit early and then read for 14, 15 minutes before he opens an easy email and does all the other things. But you talked, so this might, thinking of strategies to keep something simple and what you could do 14 minutes a day is going to be easy for people, but it's sticking to it that's hard. So this is what I would also suggest is you have a cue that reminds you to do the thing, whether it's a sticky or an alarm on your phone. I set my alarm a lot during the day just to, remind me to get up and move, especially if I'm in deep work. But I have a pull-up bar outside my house. I built it because I want to do pull-ups too. And while I was working on pull-ups, there was I still do pull-ups, but there was a point when I wanted to get up my pull-ups, improve in number. So I would just come home every day and do a few pull-ups or knock out a set. And every time I was outside and I saw the pull-up bar, I'd get on the pull-up bar. So that was my cue to do the thing. So I think that's also important is people will forget pretty quickly what they were set out to do because of their busy life. So maybe it's you wearing walking shoes to work will remind you to move more. Or it's like you have a reminder on your phone and your calendar to say, walk for 20 minutes at lunchtime, or do push-ups, 10 push-ups every hour. Whatever it is, you have to have a cue to remind you to do the thing, and the reward is you feel better because of it. But keep it simple. You might balk at like 14 minutes, right? 10 minutes. Yeah, it may not seem like a lot, but get those small wins, and then it'll turn into longer time later on, if not right away. But get the small wins, because most likely some folks listening are not doing anything, right? Or not there yet. And I know retired Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, people who are highly accomplished who struggle getting their activity during the day. And they I remember one guy balked at I started doing 7-minute workouts after I had my kids. He's like, 7 minutes? How can you be okay with that? And I was like, it's something, not nothing. What are you doing?
Yes.
And then he started to do it. And he's like, oh, okay, this is good. Like, I got 7 minutes, then I did 15, then I did 20. And he's like, now I'm into it. And I'm like, see, you just need a spark.
Oh, yeah.
So I hope that made sense.
Made total sense. And I'll tell you, that's 7 minutes. I'm doing this interview in my home gym and all that. And I'm looking over there at a Versa climber, which I refer to as mechanical Satan. And I got to tell you, 7 minutes.
Mechanical Satan.
I do 30-second sprints on that. And after the third one, I have to go lay down on the floor. So,
good for you.
For those listening out there, you can do a whole lot in that 7 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever,
It's something, not nothing. And it is a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah. Every time, I still get to that mindset of like, oh man, I want to be able to, get a really good cardio, zone 2 training in today. But I've got only this amount of time.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to use that time. But you be aware of it, right? Like, let go of your ego and do something, not nothing. There are days when I am like, you know what? My brain, my emotional energy, I'm a little shot. And doing a hard workout isn't actually what I want to do. I'm going to go for a walk. So I coordinate with my husband to have him watch the boys, and I go for a walk around our subdivision, right? It's being intentional. That's what people need, because here's the last thing I'll say before we wrap up is like, choose your hard, right? You can choose the hard. This is hard of saying, oh, I'll get to that someday, tomorrow, next week, or when I retire, or when I'm less busy. When are you going to be less busy? And so you kind of feed into comfort of like what you're used to. You do what you always done, you're going to get what you always got. But that hard, sadly, is going to come later in the form of systemic disease, struggle with retirement, struggle with relationships, even.
Yeah.
But you can also choose your hard of, all right, I'm going to do something, not nothing. I'm going to give that 7-minute workout a go. To 14 minutes, I'm going to get up and move more. I'm going to try some knuckle push-ups. Why not? And that's hard, especially if I've exercised a lot, and I still find going out in the morning at 5 degrees is hard. But I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. It's, making me stronger. And, but the hard is in the moment, that moment. Yeah. And the effects of it come that day and later on in life. So there's a choice we have. We always have a choice. And that's what I share. I have this keynote I give called Choose Your Heart. And that's what my next book is about. And I ask people, not shaming you for where you're at, but think about it. Take a hard look at how you're living. And I'll tell you what, you can do all the crazy leadership trainings you want about, team-based communication, industry-level training. But if you've got people who are burnt out, low on energy, you're not going to get very far with those people. Yeah. So start paying attention to the whole leader, the whole aspect of you before it's too late.
Oh, where can we find your existing book? You've read a book. Where can we find the new book? And how can people reach out to you, Dr. T? I think some people are going to want to reach out to you for various reasons. How do they contact you?
Yeah, well, my website is a great way. I get all the emails from, if you connect with me on our website, movement-rx.com. That's a great way. There's a contact me form. We get all those. We're not one of those websites that's like, contact us and we'll never get back to you. We do. And I have a Substack too. It's Be Well to Lead Well newsletter. You can look me up under Movement RX. Subscribe to our newsletter. The book, I don't have a published date yet. I'm in the proposal phase. I'm currently writing other chapters, but I'm looking to see if I want to self-publish or actually go through a publisher. And but it is called Choose Your Hard: How to Lead Without Losing Yourself. And it's really about leaders, the leader who takes care of everyone else. Like, what about you? And there are some, the nice thing about this book, it'll be a framework for how we lead in the corporate space. And it'll be a good template for people to go off of for behavior change, as well as the things they can have control over in their day and their lifestyle. So, and then there'll be some good stories too.
Absolutely. Well, listen, my friend, it's always a pleasure talking to you.
You too.
I am an evangelist for you, a disciple, maybe. I love what you're doing. I believe in it. I like to believe I've done it for a lot of years now and all of that. So my best to you. Best of luck with the book. Best of luck with your business. Say hello to your family for me. And when that book's ready to go, come back. We'll do a whole episode.
I would love to. It'll be a journey of writing. I mean, I'm writing it now.
Yeah.
And, but yes, if you want to stay in touch with me and about the book launch, go to our website, contact us, right? And we'll make sure to keep you in the loop. So.
Sure. Good. All right, my friend. Thank you so much. And as always, go forth and lead well. Okay.
I will, Mike. Thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please subscribe, rate, review, and recommend to your friends. Please visit our website at fidelisleadership.com and sign up for our leadership newsletter. Until next time, remember the words of the ancient Greek philosopher Pericles.
What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but is woven in the lives of others.